Great. Let's get rolling here. It's early Sunday morning again. I decided to shoot in here because this is the only place I have enough light to do so. The sun is not even up yet, and even if it were, there's so much smoke and haze that I just wouldn't have enough light to shoot outside. Now, I drove down and back to the Bay Area yesterday, and you don't see blue skies until someplace south of Vacaville, so it's not good conditions right now. But last Sunday I gave you some statistics about how you were doing, and then as it turned out, everyone went to work for the remainder of day Sunday and kicked those statistics way up. The first week was just real good, and the second week I think has the potential to be as good, if not better. As we're sitting here right now, 65% of you have accumulated over 100 points, which is just dead on track. I think 20% of you are over 140, and there's a handful, 3 or 4 people who are someplace north of 175, which is just really good work, just collecting all the points you can. So there's really some good effort going on. The other thing I like this week is you started to make use of that discussion forum. I call it one thing or the other, the Q&A forum and the group discussions. What you used it for primarily turned out to be to communicate with me, which is just fine. I prefer a lot of questions that you ask. I prefer that you ask them in that form rather than on email, because email is just between me and you, and if you ask it on that other in the group discussions, then I can make a reply and other people can see it. It can benefit a lot of people, if it benefits anyone at all. So keep that up, and moreover, jump in on the group sessions. If someone asks a question, particularly if it's a question about the use of the calculator, and I had a question on the use of the calculator this time, and I didn't really know the answer. I had to kind of research and figure it out. If you know it, jump in there. Okay, I will see your response as well too, and I'll kind of check everything out. So you guys are using the discussions well. The discussion on Cray's data set was just over the top. I thought it was just darn good. So good that I think I'm going to make a separate video on it rather than try to talk about it here. Otherwise, what I wanted you to carry away from this week, let me put up this view graph. I'm going like that. I don't know where I'm going to put it here or there. What we talked about this week was kind of the beginning and almost the end of descriptive statistics. Now we're going to go into a session on probability, which is somewhere in between descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. I'm going to pull it back to descriptive statistics, but right now you've been exposed to all the primary statistics. Statistics, the word has multiple meanings, yeah. But you've been exposed to the formulas and algorithms and means to calculate these various quantities which describe quantitative data sets. Yeah? And here they are. For central tendency, you've talked about mean, median, mode, mid-range. Don't confuse that with range. And maybe I left something out there. Maybe I didn't. With regard to dispersion, you've talked about standard deviation, variance, and range. Don't confuse that with mid-range. And with respect to position, you've talked about the z-scores, the quartiles, and the percentages. So in red there, those are the statistics that are going to stay with you here in this course. You're going to be calculating means until the last day of the course. All right, you will calculate means on the final. Likewise, you will calculate standard deviations and variances, and maybe you've seen that those are both really the same thing throughout this course. And of the location statistics, you'll be calculating z-scores. So, a couple more comments. One of my least favorite statistics here is the percentile statistic, and it's my least favorite because I think you knew everything that you need to know about percentage when you came into this class. And if anything, this probably just confuses you, and that's because percentages can get defined in at least 2, maybe 3 different ways. And so if you've got a data set and you've got a value 72, through one means of calculated percentage, you might find that it's in the 60th percentile. Through another one, you might find 61 percentile. And I don't care, right? It's enough for you to know that the 60th percentile means roughly 60% of the scores are below this value. The values of the scores, 60% of them are less than this value of 72, the example I just gave you. And I know at the same time, you've got algorithms to learn and to carry out. Do so, but don't sweat that too much. You're not going to see that going on downstream. Z-score is a different animal. Z-score is a very useful animal. Remember, the Z-score is the number of standard deviations that a value is from the mean. Okay, if you don't understand that, it might be because you don't understand what a standard deviation is, and I can't let you persist like that. You've got to know what a mean is. You probably did before you came in. Sum up all the numbers, divide by the number of numbers that you summed up. But you probably still don't really know what a variance is, and you've got to make that right. It's not just a thing that you calculate with one variable stats. It is, and go back and see this for yourself, it is roughly the average of the squared deviations from the mean. So go see if you can understand what that means, because you're going to see that idea of these squared deviations from the mean. You're going to see it throughout the course. You're going to see it in chapter 11, as late as chapter 12, actually, and chapter 11, and probably several times before that. So it's important to get a very good feeling about what variance is, and of course the standard deviations, the square root of the variance. The only other thing I'd say is, as we're getting ready to go into next week, you guys are hanging in there pretty well. If you're not hanging in there very well, if you're having difficulty, think about why you're having difficulty, and I think the answer you're going to find is that this is not an easy thing to do. This is not easy to go into a new textbook, read about new material, start to extend yourself. You've got to be able to read and comprehend very, very well. And if that's not a strength, you need to find a way around it. What I've gone back to a couple of students and say you really need to find tutors. And if you're local to this area, the school has got tutors. They really do. They have it's one of the strengths of the school. They have a very good program. You can hook up with students at the associated, the ASC, the Student Success Center, essentially. It's had a couple of names over the last couple of years. So I've seen a lot of students on a day-by-day basis work with that same tutor, and they get along famously like that. And you might have to do that if you find yourself struggling. And I would give that a shot, because if your plan instead is to wait for a face-to-face class to come along, I can't say when this school is going to have those face-to-face classes again. And I can also say that in general, that education is heading towards online education. It really is, in a big way. It's less expensive for the student. Once you kind of figure out how to learn, it's a very, very strong way to learn. So hang in there if you're struggling right now, and try to find your way through it. Really, give me as much. Contact me and communicate with me as much as you want. You're not bothering me. That reminds me of one other thing before I close here. You've seen that you're finding problems with the quizzes. I guess what I've found is, while I can take your emails and go, oh, problem with the quiz, I can go in and I can fix that quiz on my side of the Canvas site. I can't fix it on your site. Because Canvas, once a student has taken a quiz, Canvas makes sure that every other student takes the exact same quiz. So even though I change things, they don't change in your view, and so I end up awarding separate 1-point awards to 10 different students who one by one come across that problem and contact me. It's the best we can do. Just keep communicating with me. Be explicit about where you've had problems and what the problem is. and I'll make it right. I mean, there's some students who already have in excess of 10 points of extra credit that way, which is like equivalent to one assignment. So it's not trivial. The last thing I'll tell you is week 3, we're turning our attention to probability. Probability. You know how mathematics introduces a basic idea, stacks something on top of that. Well, probability gets on your back quickly. It stacks very, very quickly. So because of that, be absolutely certain as you start learning, you'll start learning what classical probability is. Make sure you understand that. You'll move on to the addition rule and the multiplication rules. Make sure you understand that as deeply as you can. Or by the time you get to what's called conditional probability, you're going to be struggling. So just take your time, learn each feature as it comes, do the problems associated with each feature to whatever extent you can as you come across them. And hopefully you'll find probability, I think, is a pretty fun it's a pretty fun topic, but it can be kind of difficult to get your arms around. So know that going in. Again, communicate with me and others as much as you can, and good luck to you. Keep it up. Things are going along pretty well here, I'd say. All right, talk to you again.